I grew up in the city of Trenton, and most of the predominant things in our area are drug addiction, alcohol, all types of immorality. But, you make the best of it when we become a family. I'm grateful that I grew up here. Wasn't a whole lot of God at all, I would say, in our household. Where I grew up at, that example of marriage and the education of purity is something that we really lacked, of mentors. I had my daughter when I was 16 years old. There was a lot of outside pressures of you're not going to finish school, you kind of ruined your life. And I think that drove me for something else, because it was like, I am going to be somebody. I'm not going to let this stop me. So I was determined basically to work. I was determined to go to school. I graduated and, I got a really good job. I bought my home at 18, bought a car. And I thought that's what it was about. If you work, then you're doing what you need to do for your family. Regardless of how much I'm working or how many people have to babysit her while I'm working, as long as she has what she needs, it's kind of what became my drive. I felt empty. I felt like I didn't know me, no one ever knew me, and no one would ever love me, and almost to the point of why was I even created? Something inside of me was like, I want love. So I told my daughter, I said, Mommy's gonna take you to church. This is probably like in 2004. So I get to the church, the guy starts to preach, and he was basically saying something like, you can gain everything in this world. You can gain all the house, you can gain the cars, you can gain all the material things, right? And still not be living. He said, but when you find Christ is when you truly find life, and I don't know, by the time he got done, I'm on the floor. So before you know it, I'm leaving out of the church with a robe. I had a robe on and put something on my head. I'm like going to the water all in one day. It was like the emptiness that I felt. I didn't feel it no more. And then from that time, my transformation process started to happen. I started to really read this Bible. I think maybe for the first 5 to 6 years in the church, I did what the Lord wanted. It didn't take a long time for me. I just started conforming, to God's ways. And even with relationships, I was like, I want to be single. I want to purify my body. I want to be holy. I started thinking God, I really want to be in the lives of my children. I felt like Peter at the time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to just step out on faith. I'm going to take a lower-paying job, and God's going to bless me because I'm being obedient to him. And I know it's his design for the family. In that time period, that was, I guess God was taking me through a wilderness experience, and for me to really not rely on anything in this world besides him. And I lost everything. In that time period of losing natural things, I was gaining a lot of things that I didn't see at the time. But I started to get weary, just tired of the warfare, I would say. At that time, I might have been in the church about 6 years. I kind of just was like, God, I'm tired. The more I serve you, the harder it gets, and I don't understand why you would tell me one thing and I'm experiencing another thing naturally. I purposely went back into familiar ways, and it was a battle, and that's how I know that God had changed me, because even when I fell into temptation and into sin, into fornication, even when I fell into that, it wasn't a comfortable place. When I grew up, it was normal. You understand what I'm saying? So when I did it, after these 6 years of serving the Lord, it was terrible. I went home one day and I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I just started to seek the Lord again, wholeheartedly. I started going down to the downtown fountain. And I would say, I'm sorry, I doubted you. I'm sorry that I sought my own way. All that time that I was walking to the fountain, I had to pass the Salvation Army. So one day I was walking, I look up at the building and I'm like, wait a second, Salvation Army. So I'm like, wow, this is an army of salvation. They got some strategic stuff going on here. Let me figure out what's going on in this place. I seen the War Cry magazine, and I went home that day and I just could not take my eyes out of the magazine. I read that magazine from cover to cover, and I came back the next day here. I was just so excited. I said, wow, I want to be connected with what's going on here. I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I was able to meet the majors at the church. We got to talking about some of the things that I used to do in the community, and they said to me, well, it's not nothing big. It's a 3-month temporary position, a kettle manager, and we was wondering if that would be something that you would be interested in. God really blessed the kettle efforts that year. First thing he had me do was create a kettle's prayer strategy. I normally try to create prayer strategies before anything I do because I don't know what I'm doing. But he does, right? So I asked him. I was able to get a full-time position as the community outreach volunteer coordinator. It's just wow, God couldn't have put me in a more perfect place. It's so awesome because I didn't seek it. I wasn't seeking a job here. I wasn't seeking any resources here. I was seeking the Lord, and he was found, and I can truly count on him. I thank God for the Salvation Army, and I know that it's going to bless a whole lot of people because of their willingness to go out, because of their willingness to pray, because He is near unto our cries. He hears us. Call on the Lord and pray and ask God to lead you to spiritual mentors. I'm still praying for that. Lead you to spiritual mentors that can help guide you along the way.